Hey everybody, this is Justine, your host of Mentally a Badass. What is up, mother duckers? This is your mentally unstable girl, Justine, the host of Mentally a Badass. Hey everybody, welcome back to Mentally a Badass. My name is Justine, and today I have a returning guest. If you remember her from the Moms Matter episode, I have Jessica, who's also my former boss.
Hello, everybody.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Yeah, I usually do intro, but I feel like you don't need one. So guys, she's my former boss. Now we besties. And today we're going to be talking about work-life balance. We're going to talk about our experience working together and just our current experience as well, and where we feel like should change in the whole, work environment. And I know that it's like very super important. So let's get into it. So I'm trying to think of where we should begin. Let's talk about how we know each other. I want to talk about how you almost didn't hire me.
Oh my God. I pull some deep memories out of my brain. That was quite a long time. I remember almost not hiring you.
No, I do. No, because other people were saying to don't hire me because I had a YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's true. Some people were questioning that, but I was like, nope, I like her. We're gonna bring her on the team.
Oh my, that's actually kind of, actually the internship that I had before you, I got mostly hired because of that reason of having a YouTube channel, because it set me apart.
I think we had some people on the team who were concerned about what you might say online about the company we worked for.
That's right now.
Yeah. But I remember I did like a preliminary, I went to your YouTube channel and watched
Oh, you did?
some of your videos.
I didn't know that part. What did you watch?
I don't remember. I just remember, I think I looked up your channel and just watched like one or two videos just to see what you were creating content about. Yeah.
I didn't even know that.
Oh, I was when I was hiring, I would go on to social media and look at Facebook pages. I would not do that anymore because I don't think that stuff matters anymore. I think everyone's allowed to live their life how they want to live it. But yeah, this was probably 2017?
No, I think 2017 I had the internship. So I guess the internship was a semester. So it was, so actually, no, you're right. At the end of 2017, because I had my internship beginning,
Did you?
2018, because I worked
Was I married by the time I hired you?
Yes.
Okay, so that would have been, I got married in September of 2018.
Okay, yeah. So it was 2018. Yeah, 2017 is when I moved back to Florida, did that program. And then I went to the internship, and then, oh my gosh, do you remember how, didn't they call you and say Justine's losing her mind because she's almost done with her internship and she needs to know she...
Yeah, your old boss called me and was like, we have a employee who is almost finished with her internship and she really wants to stay on, and she had great things to say about you.
What did she say?
She just said you were really good at your job and you were wanting to grow with the company, and you know who I'm talking about, right?
Of course.
Okay. So she had great things
I would love to have her on the podcast.
Yeah.
I'm sure we can talk about a lot of things.
Yeah. Yeah, so she was like, make sure you give her a call. She's eager for an opportunity. And then I called you to offer you the job, and your car answered the call, and you had trap music. And I was like, who am I about to hire right now?
That was kind of like something that just happened right now. So as we were starting the podcast, the soundboard decided to just be like, low battery, charge it. Okay, we're done. And I was like, why is my life like this? Like, what?
Yeah, I think audio, anything that involves an audio system.
I do remember that I got the call, and it was the timing that I turned on my car. So the audio, like for some reason my car decided to still play the music even though I had a phone call. So I was on the call with you. The Chainsmokers were playing.
Oh,
it was the Chainsmokers.
My memory.
And I remember I was freaking out. I hung up on you.
Yeah. Well, I think there was a Bluetooth.
Oh my God, it was so embarrassing.
But it was funny. It made me laugh. And then I was like, oh, I definitely have to have this person team.
So. That was how it starts. Oh my God, that's actually really hilarious. Oh my God, just thinking about that now. And then obviously when it happened, I literally just wanted to die. And then now we could just oh my God, I was like, this is a great way to start. And that only happens with me. Anyway, so I can talk about the mental health behind that before I became your employee. My gosh, I wish you could see, like, when I was working that job and I was like doing my job with driving to places, I was like literally crying to each in between meeting clients because I was so anxious because I was like, I'm not going back to New Jersey. Please, Jessica, save me. Which I don't even wait. Did I interview with you? I'm assuming I did.
You did interview with me.
Why do I not like remember this interview?
It was in the
big building.
No, it was in the little building, but it was in the big conference room.
Okay, yeah, I went there. Okay, I don't remember how that interview went, but okay, I'm glad I love when I can't remember anything. It's kind of like everything was a blur. But you know what's really funny is that the person was like, she wants to grow with the company, which at that time is valid. I did, and then I'm like, not with the company anymore.
Well, neither am I, so.
Yeah, this is why we're here, because we can talk about it. Who knew when all the stuff we went, oh my gosh, we have so much to talk about.
Yeah, I have a lot that I'd like to share. Clean, finally, after a year.
Oh my god, this is getting spicy. This is getting real spicy. Okay, let's jump. This is how we met. Let's jump. We're going to jump. Pandemic? Okay, we jump to the part where we all want to drink tequila. This is comical.
Well, I think the pandemic literally changed every aspect of everyone's life. Wait, we went out to drink tequila?
No. It was okay. I'm trying to explain what it was and tell you what it was without actually releasing what it is for privacy purposes. Remember, we had big groups coming and a yearly one that came in, I think it was like January or February. Mm-hmm. It was like PW time.
That would have been in the fall, probably.
I don't know. I thought it was February. Whatever.
February was the time of year that we hosted the big groups that do a particular sport that involves a lot of endurance.
That's kind of like the PW season was when I started losing my like spirit. That's kind of like how it started. Like the first year in that job, I like loved it. I'm like, this is great. I loved my life. But then once PW happened, that's kind of like when I slowly... That's how we're going to fight. And if anyone who we used to work with listens to this, they're going to know exactly what I'm talking about. But yeah, when PW started, like after my first experience with that season, like that is when it started, like my slowly.
That's because we started as a company to put all of the hourly employees on mandatory overtime, which I can't necessarily say what company this was or what part of the company it was, but I do think that was an exploitation of labor for sure. I don't think anybody should ever be forced to work overtime. Mm-hmm. So we used to really milk the hourly employees rather than just hiring more people to balance the needs of an operation. Yeah, that's probably why you started to feel really burnt out, because everyone was on like anywhere from 5 to 10 hours a week of mandatory overtime. So you were probably working at least 50 hours a week.
Yeah, I think it was a mix of that. And then also just like the people that we had to deal with, just a constant screaming back to back.
Yeah, I think working in a contact center, anyone who's ever worked in customer service, I mean, major props to people who can handle other people. Mm-hmm. Customer service is not for the weak, but working in a contact center where you just have people screaming at you, the disembodiment of like, you're not in front of that person, so they feel like they can take advantage of you because you're just a voice over the phone. So I think a lot of people who work in contact centers get verbally abused.
Yeah.
It's just part of that job. I think it's a really difficult line of business to be in.
Yeah, and I think when I first started, I think the call volume wasn't as high, and then you guys started adding on more lines.
Yeah, the business was growing. The team that we used to work on was probably at its peak as far as like success is concerned in 2019, right before the pandemic happened. So when you joined the team, we were on that growth curve and we really hit the peak. Yeah, wow. Right before the pandemic happened. We were starting to kind of develop our business more.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
No, let's look at behind the scenes to know. I came on peak time. Woo!
You did. We were doing a lot of changing and growing right then. So I think you were part of one of the larger new hire groups I had. I don't remember exactly how many people onboarded with you.
10.
Yeah,
exactly.
that was a pretty big group of people. And then for that team, because it was a pretty small team to begin with. And then I remember I had, I think, just hired another group that was like 15.
Yeah, it was like right after me. Yeah.
We doubled the size of the team that you worked on around the time that you joined. So yeah, I think a lot of people struggled with that. And I think a lot of areas right now, post pandemic, are still struggling with that because it's really difficult to retain good talent because people just aren't willing to put up with the crap that they put up with before the pandemic. I think a lot of people realize that working for a big corporation is sometimes unavoidable because we all need to make a living and we have to go where the jobs are. But I think a lot of people aren't willing to put up with working all of these extra hours without some sort of a perk or some sort of a break. And so a lot of people are moving around. It's also generational, right? A lot of people who are joining the workforce right now at entry-level positions are those Gen Zers coming, out of college. If you think about it, they're not willing to put up with the same things that millennials were kind of brainwashed to think they had to accept. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, you're right. And then I remember, I think, during our one-on-ones, actually something stayed with me of what you said to me. And I'm going to tell you what you said.
I hope it was something good.
It was something funny. I don't know if it was professional on your end, but it was funny to me. So that's why. Okay. So we were having a one-on-one and you were teaching me how to talk to people. By the way, I really do appreciate you doing that because I could talk to people better.
Oh,
but anyway, you were training me on communication with guests. And then when I was struggling with people not knowing anything and I was trying to explain things and it just wasn't clicking, you said to me, Justine, pretend that they're 5 years old.
That's right. Yep. Explain it to them like they're a kindergartner.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. You know what's really hilarious is that I was actually in a webinar for like social media. I think I forgot what I was in it for. I think it was like trends or updates or whatever. Oh no, actually no, it's about building a portfolio and case study. That's what it was. So yeah, so they were basically saying like, the way you're typing out your portfolio, pretend like people don't know you and be clear. And then I wrote in like the comment thing and I was like, oh, a company I used to work for, my boss told me to talk to people like they're 5-year-olds, and everyone was like laughing. They didn't even know me. I joined these like webinars that like are free, that come from like companies that have like scheduling for, obviously that's a way for them to get me to buy their product, which I would if I had the money for it, because they're great and I really appreciate their free webinars. But yeah, so nobody knew who I was, and it was like people from like all over the world, and everyone's just like, Justine. They were like all laughing. And
well, I think it's true when you are trying to explain a complicated
it's not complicated. It's just no, it's so true. It's like when I don't mean like when I tell people, when like if I'm coaching somebody or for whatever reason, or I don't know what scenario, but I do remember saying something to people. It's like, you got to pretend everyone's an idiot or something like that.
Yeah, you have to don't give people the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, I wish I could remember what was the like scenario that I was in that I had to like tell people or whatever. But yeah, it's true. It's like, it's kind of like sad saying that, but in reality it's like you got to pretend like nobody has your knowledge and everybody's an idiot, and you got to talk to them like that. But it's also like, okay, how do we do that without sounding condescending?
I'm glad that stuck with you.
My gosh, yeah,
that's a piece of feedback.
Yeah, no, it is really good feedback, and no, a lot of things that you taught me stuck with me.
I'm glad.
No, for real, like I'm the person today because of you professionally. No, yeah, for real. I bring that onto my current job. Like when I have to, I don't work, it's not a customer service job, but I do have to talk to like influencers, and then I do have some customers that do come into the DMs for the tap room that I work, do the social media for. And I'm always like literally like top tier customer service. Like we even had like one time where something was like misleading and the person got angry, and then I was like, okay, we need to do recovery. It's stuck with
from the service industry.
Yeah, it stuck with me. So I like messaged my client. I was like, okay, yeah, we were technically in the wrong with this. I feel bad for this guy, and he's like not being like a jerk to me. Cause that's the thing too. If this guy was like out here cursing at me and stuff, it's like, okay, sucks to suck, right? But no, he was like, everything he said was valid. Like he was upset, and you can be angry to an extent. Plus, it was all through like Facebook Messenger, so I wasn't like hearing him angry at me. But everything he said was like valid, and so I was like, okay, he's not being mean to me. We were technically in the wrong here because it was like a wording thing on one of the graphics that got confusing, which actually in my head wasn't confusing. If you read the graphic, you may know what it means, but like it's a situation where you have to expect everyone's an idiot, you know. So it was, maybe it was that situation. I think that's where I bring it to when it comes to marketing. That's what it is. To really be careful of the words, because some people may perceive it a certain way. So I'm like really big on that. So that's literally what's the scenario. Okay. So I text my client. I was like, can we give him like a gift card or something? Like, I feel really bad, and I feel like this is the proper thing to do in order for the company to have a good reputation. And he was like, yeah, absolutely, like no problem. And yeah, and then so I messaged the customer back, and he was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. It kind of seemed like he did not expect it at all, because maybe, I don't know, maybe they, these companies in there doesn't really, I think it's because we're so used to always going the extra mile that I sometimes just assume every company works in that way without having to be asked for recovery. Like, he wasn't saying I deserve something for free. Like, he was just speaking his mind and just expressing his frustration. And I just automatically went the extra mile because I just felt like that was the appropriate thing. And just give him like a gift card, like that's not like, it was like a $25 gift card. Like, it's not gonna really, it's a multi-million-dollar company. So it's not, at least I think it is. I think they're a million dollar company. It's not gonna hurt them. And plus, like the $25, when they come back, I'm sure they're gonna spend more than that. Yeah. So that's like an example. And I'm trying to see where I was talking about, because I always go on tangents. But let's move forward to pandemic life.
Okay.
So we went home. That was good time. And let me, because you're the guest, and you have a lot to say, and I probably didn't hear half of it. So where do you want to start?
We're talking about mental health and how it associates to your job, and we want to talk about kind of a pandemic period.
Yeah, okay. So how was your experience when you first started being a boss? Yeah, when you were first a boss, like how was your experience? Like the first, I guess, couple of years, was it all like daisy, or would you just want to like not show up to work or something?
Well, I will say that the company that we worked for had a great way. I just think the culture at this particular company leads most people to
drink. You set yourself up for that one.
Oh my gosh, I did. I mean, it's not wrong. You're not wrong. But what I was going to say is a lot of people take the company and they make it part of their personality. And I was so guilty of this. My really good friend says it's drinking the Kool-Aid, right? It's buying into basically every action that you make, whether it's on company time or not, is a reflection of who you are because of this company. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I was part of it.
Yeah. So when I joined the company that we used to work for, I was fresh out of college. It was like my dream job. And I went up the ranks very quickly. I worked really, really hard on networking, and I was really proud of how quickly I moved into a position where I was a manager, a leader of people.
Yeah, that's the word for it.
Yeah. So I did take it very, very seriously. I started in that role in 2017, and I had a lot I needed to learn. Unfortunately for me, I worked with a peer group who, at the time, I kind of was a little bit of an outcast. I was kind of the baby of the group. I didn't feel like I had a lot of support, and I just had to kind of fake it until I make.
They told us at orientation, actually. That happened in your orientation. It was like, fake it till you make it, guys.
Yeah, I mean, literally, that's what I had to do. And so, but I did reach a point probably after about a year in the role where I felt really confident. I felt like I was making really good connections with my team. I felt like I was building pretty solid relationships with the people on my team. And I mean, you and I still talk, so I feel like
you're one of the very few. You're probably the one that I talk to the most. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways, I took it very seriously, and I was very proud of what I was doing. And then I found out that I was pregnant. About 2 years after being in the job, I found out I was pregnant, and I knew my life was going to change. And I knew I was going to have to figure out if I wanted to stay in this type of work where I'm leading a team of people and people are relying on me. And I didn't really have a time when I wasn't working. I had people who'd reach out to me sometimes as early as like 6 a.m, and I'd have people texting me on my work phone until 10, 11 o'clock at night. So I was kind of required to be like available even beyond like normal working hours.
I didn't even know that.
When you're leading a team of people. Yeah, it was just part of the culture. So when I found out I was pregnant, I was like, oh man, I don't know if I can be a mom and have a lot of my energy going into taking care of my own kids and then also have like a team of work kids.
It's your baby. I think he calls your chickies or babies.
My baby ducks.
Remember when I had to go away? Well, not that sounded really weird. When me and the other chickies had to go far, far away.
Yes.
And then it took like a year for me to come back to the nest.
Yes.
That was traumatizing.
That was when I was on maternity leave.
Oh.
Yeah.
That was a horrible time.
Yeah. So, but then the pandemic happened while I was pregnant as well, which also changed like a lot of the dynamics at the company that we worked for. And like you said, part of my team got sent off to work.
It sounds really like
team.
It sounds like it's real sketchy. It's like we were shipped away.
I mean, you kind of were.
We were shipped away.
Speaking. So I had my daughter. She was born in May of 2020. I went on maternity leave for 3 or 4 months. And when I came back to work, I had an absolutely terrible experience, which at the time I attributed to the fact that we were all still working from home. The pandemic was still like at its height, you know. It would have been late 2020 at this point. So I don't even think vaccines were available yet. And people were still wearing masks and there was still a lot of like fear and, you know. But I had a really horrible experience because we were transitioning. Like my leader had left.
Your manager?
Yeah. Had left the company. And then we were like, I think I had like 4 or 5 different managers after that. And
I think I remember that. I think I remember you venting to me about that, about like the million different managers that you had and like the horrible experience.
Yeah. So I felt like I didn't really have good support coming back to work, which I think is a really big miss in the workforce. Companies are so hyper-focused on diversity and inclusion and equity, which is amazing. But I think there are certain, demographics that those initiatives are typically focused on. Typically, I think we see a lot of things focused around race and like sexual orientation, which are very, very important to bring attention to. But I also think part of DE&I should be focused around making sure, I mean, equity and inclusion are part of the term DE&I. And I think new parents returning to work is an area that often is overlooked. And it's kind of a minority group. I don't say that to like take attention away from any other minority group. I hope that's clear. I'm just saying that not a lot of people, like not every single employee is going to experience what it feels like to leave for an extended amount of time and then try to come back after having their entire lives literally change
that
from
makes sense.
Like
I didn't even think of
a big
it
life
like that.
experience. And so just speaking on behalf of all the moms out there and all of the dads, parental leave is not a vacation.
Oh, yeah.
And so when you come back to work, I think a lot of companies have an opportunity that they miss to create some sort of a return to work. Like it's kind of like having to go through onboarding again, right? Like what's changed since you walked away from your, not walked away, since you stepped away for your leave of absence. You have like, in my experience, I had a whole team of people that left and like I had new hires on my team when I came back to work. So I didn't have anyone helping me through that transition. I was on my own and my peer group didn't help me. I just was expected to go back to business as usual. And I tried my hardest to do that. But I was also still breastfeeding my daughter at the time and needed to take some pumping breaks during my workday. And so I was trying to figure out, how do I balance my time? I have all these people who are expecting me to just jump right back into my work. But like, number one, the whole world is different because the pandemic happened.
Adding that on top of it,
And then my personal world was different because I had a baby. And I was trying to figure out how to take pumping breaks and how to balance like all of the needs of my job at the time. So anyways, I just had a really bad experience. And then fast forward to 2022, I had another baby.
Yeah.
And also had an absolutely awful experience coming back to work after that.
Was I still with the company then? I don't remember. Oh, I left in 2022 at the end of.
I think you might have left right after I came back from maternity leave, because I went out in February of 2022 with my son.
Okay, yeah, and I think
so it might have been right. I don't remember. You either left right before or right after I came.
Yeah.
Came back. Anyways, but yeah, I had at this point our jobs had returned to the office. We weren't working virtually anymore, and after my first maternity leave, I was still working from home. So when I needed to step away for pumping breaks, I was in my house. So it was very easy to find a location that worked for me and was comfortable. But when I came back to work after my son was born, I didn't have anybody helping me to figure out, like, where do I even go to take a pumping break? I was told that there was a specific mother's room in the building we worked in. And when I went there to kind of scope it out and see like where it was and how the room was set up, the room had been like quite literally abandoned during the pandemic, which, you know, I get it. But like there were dead cockroaches on the floor. There was a refrigerator in there that I was supposed to be storing my milk in during the day that nobody had cleaned. And there was like food spilled in it. And
maybe food even in that refrigerator.
I don't know. That's a great question. And it had like old, like ripped, dusty, gross furniture in there. And so I expressed my concern about this to my manager at the time. And I was like, do I have another area that's an option for me to use, because I'm not comfortable using this room? Yeah. And she told me, well, why don't you just go use your car then?
Hello, Mother Duckers. Pausing the podcast here because I have a lot to say, a lot of announcements here. So giddy up, let's go. If you're on Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. If you're on Spotify, leave us a rating. And if you're on YouTube, leave us a comment. Tell us what you like or tell us what you fucking hate. But also be a little nice, because I don't feel like crying in the corner tonight. Second, we have a clothing line. Yes, clothing line where we have unique designs by our co-founder, Ariel. And lastly, if you want us to slide into your emails, we have a monthly newsletter. So everything is in the description. Go ahead and take a look. And yeah, let's get back to the show.
And we live in Florida, and this would have been in June or July. So for anybody who's not familiar with the weather in Florida, sitting in your car, even with the air conditioning running, is not really an option. Not to mention, I would have been like kind of in a vulnerable state, right? You know? Yeah. So anyways, I had several experiences like that. I also had a peer who you know, who told me that I should really talk to my husband about picking up a second job, because moms are supposed to just stay home with their kids.
I want to know who this is now.
You know who it is. I'll tell you after. Yeah, and that I really shouldn't be considered a full-time employee because I was taking so much time during my work week to like step away for pumping breaks.
Like I think I know.
You do. It was like my direct peer.
Yes, I think I remember you telling me, inviting to me about that. I don't know the name, but I think, yeah.
Yeah, so all of that had took a severe toll on my mental health. Yeah. I had a variety of other experiences. Like I could go on for 3 hours and hours. Yeah. But I think it's a lot of things. These are things that a lot of people don't think about unless they go through them. And I imagine that people who have to take any sort of like medical leave of absence, I mean, even people who might take like a vacation, like trying to come back to work after a longer vacation. I don't know. I just feel like these are things that a lot of people don't think about. And there isn't a lot of support for this, like for parents coming back from a leave of absence. And it's a missed opportunity because a lot of millennials and a lot of Gen Zers are going to be like kind of the age, I guess, like where they're going to be having kids, if they want to, I guess, I don't know. And it's something that I think a lot of people don't think about, but it can really make or break your experience, in the workforce. I don't know the most current statistic, but the last time I kind of looked into numbers on women in the workforce who choose to step away because of poor experiences they've had at work or just lack of support in general, it was something like 55% of new mothers decide to step away from their jobs because they either can't figure out how to balance it, childcare is too expensive, or they don't have enough support in the workforce and they don't feel like it's worth their time. So that's a huge amount of women, and probably, men as well, or anybody who identifies as a working parent. So anyways, it all took a huge toll on my mental health. And I think I talked about this last time I was on with you, but I literally felt like I just couldn't
I
go on like that. And
got real dark.
Yeah. Anyways, so I decided to step away from that job and from that company. And now I have a job that I love and I feel super supported in. And I kind of learned that the grass can be greener when you go after what you think you need and you support and advocate for yourself, even when you are hearing people all around you not really understanding, or thinking that they're helping you and they're really not helping you at all. But I think if you can advocate for yourself and just push for what you think you need, I think it can be out there if you go after it. So I'm in a much better spot now. But yeah, it was really dark there for a while. I had a really awful experience, and most of it was triggered by maternity leave, and that experience of leaving for a little bit and then trying to come back.
Yeah. I feel like everyone has their own individual story about their mental health correlated with the company that we used to work for. First, I had no idea. Well, first I have no idea. I'm not a mother. I've never, obviously I wouldn't go on maternity leave. I didn't even think of how hard it would be after being away for so many months, and especially with this company, things change every single day. Constantly, which is one thing that correlates to everybody's mental health at a decline. And I can literally do a whole podcast about what I went through in that company, so bad to the point I had to go on FMLA, which, by the way, you saved me on that because I didn't know it existed. I thought it was only just for families, and you said, no, you can do it for yourself. You need some time out from work. And I really did use that to my advantage because I literally would have been fired.
I think a lot of people felt that way. I remember having that conversation with a lot of people on my team. I think there was lofty expectations that were put on the people that we worked with on our, on our team. And I think just people who work in that area of the company in general. I don't think, from my experience, it seemed like high turnover was expected. And I don't think they really expected people to stay in those positions for long. So I think by the time people were feeling burnt out, they were like, all right, let's just hire a new round of people to come in and take these positions.
That's so disturbing and sad.
Yeah, they weren't really concerned with retention, which that was one of the things that I was concerned with. I was really proud of the fact that most people I hired ended up staying on my team for longer than a year. I was really concerned. That's why the new hire experience was one of the things that I used to really focus on. It was probably the favorite part of my job was being able to give you a good training experience. I don't know.
I mean, I was happy feedback wise. Wow.
So I think everyone's experience, working for big companies is different. And for the company we worked for in particular, I think there are really amazing things about working for that company. And, I think there's also a dark side that a lot of people don't talk about.
Yeah. Which if they're still in that company, they legally can't.
Right. And a lot of what I experienced was triggered by having to leave on maternity leave and then come back to work. But there were also other things that started to happen that just didn't align with my personal values or my morals. So how this company handled the return to office. I didn't agree with how return to office was mandated. And we went from all working virtually and being super productive and happy. And a lot of people felt like they were able to balance their lives better, to just a mandated, sorry, we don't believe in virtual work. Everyone has to come back to the office, no exceptions. I think a lot of companies did that in 2021, 2022, 2023 even. I think it's probably even still happening today. I don't know exactly. And I think a lot of people were like, hey, the entire world just changed. Literally every part of our reality is different now. And you're wanting us to just go back to how things
nothing
were done
ever
before.
happens.
Right. Nothing happened. I used to have people telling me, we were making it work. We were super productive. Can you please give me the why behind this? Can you explain to me why we're having to go back into the office and why we have to kind of change up our routine? And I couldn't give it to them because the company we worked for wasn't giving it to me. And so I started to disagree with that. And I didn't think it was a great practice. And I didn't think that we were kind of losing focus of, like taking care of our employees. And things started to shift where like the bottom line was what was most important. And that's probably how it always was, honestly. And I just started to realize it and kind of wake up during this time. And I just didn't agree with it. And there were other things happening too, just like politically, there were some weird things happening in the media. And, and yeah, I don't know. I just started to feel like I didn't feel proud to work for the company anymore. You know, I just felt like I don't really want my identity tied up in this brand. I want to go and find out who I am beyond my job. And so that was part of the reason why I decided to leave.
I really like how you brought up identity because it's 100% true. I'm trying to think, when I was working for that company, I don't know if I really made it like my full identity because I had other things going on with me outside of it. But one thing I can tell you is that moving back here, working for myself, not having any like anything to do with that company besides, you know, being a guest to the company, I realized, oh my gosh, like I haven't done so much while living here in Orlando. And I'm like, there's so much more to this city. But like all of those years, I was just staying in a little bubble. So it's like, wow, like I feel like, I don't feel like I wasted anything, obviously, because everything happens for a reason. But I'm like, yeah, there's so much more to life. And why did I think that this company is just like, that's the only good thing in life? Because it's not. And I do know people personally who literally like it is literally their personality.
Yeah, I think it still happens. And I mean, I get it because this particular brand, you kind of start when you're young, right? Like my kids are obsessed with this particular brand and company right now. But I think just generally speaking, the last couple of years have taught us that the world is a crazy place. There is a lot happening that's beyond our control. And what's most important is that we are living our lives and finding things that bring us joy and having hobbies that matter and spending time with our friends and our family and existing outside of contributions that you're making to a giant company or corporation. You are working 8 to 9 hours a day, give or take. So you're getting paid in exchange for your services. And that's it. That's truly it. Your career can give you a lot of value, can fulfill you, and it should. You should be willing, or you should be excited about your work, I think. Your work should bring some sense of fulfillment to you, in my opinion. And a lot of people, that's what's most important to them is growing in their career. And that's great. But I do think that there are other things in your life that should bring you a sense of fulfillment. And that was the biggest thing that I think I kind of like woke up and realized. And I think a lot of people were starting to wake up and realize that you, at the end of the day, it's okay for you to have a job. That's just a job.
Yeah.
It's okay for you to go to work and then you're not existing for your job. You are existing to live a life outside of your job. That's kind of what I felt like I needed to learn and build when I left company. I realized I didn't really have any hobbies that didn't exactly like involve the company that we used to work with.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my time. Yeah. So I got into, part of the lack of hobbies on my part is because I was a new mom trying to figure out what to do with my life.
Yeah. You have a lot on your plate.
So I got into gardening because I wanted to spend time outside. Really, I wanted to just get outside and get fresh air and sunshine and like reconnect with the world around me. That's just what brought me a sense of peace and like it helped me relieve my anxiety and just, I work in a job, I think a lot of us do, where we're sitting down in front of a computer for many hours a day, and we're talking to other people on Zoom or on Teams, and I just wanted to do something that did not involve
like technology.
Yeah, I wanted to get my hands in the dirt. So I took up gardening, and I do love it. Although I had to stop recently because we had a black widow take over my backyard.
Oh.
Yeah, and so we had
Why?
we had to figure out how to work around that. But yeah, and then I spend a lot of time with my kids, and that brings me happiness right now.
Them. You know, I never met them.
Yeah, I thought you met my daughter.
No.
You haven't met either of them?
None of them. You're keeping them from me.
Gosh, I should have brought them with me today.
That would have been fun.
That.
Literally never. I mean, I feel like I have because I see photos and videos all the time.
Yeah.
So I feel connected in that way, but I have never, like, physically. The only time I met Violet is when she was in your tummy.
Oh, I could have sworn, you came to my house one time?
Yeah, but I think I think she was at daycare.
I think I was pregnant with AJ.
Yes, you were pregnant and then she was in daycare.
Okay. I thought that she was there. Well, then we're going to have you over.
Yeah.
You guys can come over. I mean, we're just down the road.
I'm like 20 minutes away.
Yeah.
Down the road. What the hell?
That's down the road for Orlando. I don't know what you're talking about. It's an hour to get anywhere.
No, you're totally right. I feel like I have, with this whole conversation that we're having, it makes me want to bring on a former employee to talk more about all the other, like, from an employee standpoint. I mean, you obviously know what we went through.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you were there as a manager, but I just feel like I left the company for a reason. Like, my mental health was at such a decline where I was literally, like, in bed till like 6 p.m.
Yeah, that's what happened to me too at the end. A lot of people don't think that, like, people who are in managerial positions would feel that way because they have, like, power in the company or more responsibility. I think that there was this perception that we were not feeling the same stress that hourly employees
I feel like you
feeling.
would feel more.
I that was my experience. I would literally come home at the end of the day and I would just, like, sit and stare at the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And I had no energy, no capacity for anything outside of just, like, leave me alone. Nobody talk to me.
Yeah.
Because I would this is why I stepped away from managing people. I would handle everyone else's crazy amounts of stress and, like, anxiety and things that were going on in their personal lives.
Like
you never had anything that was too outrageous. I don't
really. I was crying in meetings with you. What are you talking about? I was crying, saying I hated my life and I wanted to die.
Jeez. I think
not extreme enough for you, Jessica.
Well, no, I think you and I connected, like, more as friends, and so that never felt like it was too much for me. Like, I felt like that was just us.
I don't think I said I wanted to die to you. I think if I did say that to you, you probably would have to call somebody. You would have had to like call somebody.
That's not funny. I shouldn't even joke about that. But seriously, like,
I always joke about my trauma. Gets me into trouble.
Yeah, but I can't really go into detail, but I had some pretty, like, severe situations that came in front of me that people wanted to talk to me about. And that's just part of it, right? That's part of it. And I think I'm such an empath.
Yeah.
I take all of that in.
Right.
And I could do that before I had kids. But once I had kids, I needed to have more to give to them.
Of course. Yeah.
I couldn't give all of my energy to my job anymore. So that was my experience. But yeah, I remember coming home. I also, part of one of the reasons why I left was because I had to commute into the office. And so I would have a 2-hour commute each way because of the traffic.
Each way?
Each way.
So it's like 4 hours.
Yep. I was spending 4 hours in the car.
Oh my God. That's horrible.
Yeah. And that was why I tried everything. I tried going and getting, like, accommodations personally to allow me to work from home more than just one day a week.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was in charge of, just between my husband's and my schedule, our work schedules at the time, I was the only person who could do our kids, like, daycare drop off in the morning because my husband had to be to work at, like, 6 a.m. or 5 a.m. So I had to drop our kids off at school and then do the commute into work. And I couldn't drop them off any earlier than 8 a.m. That's just the provider that we use. That was the earliest time we could drop off. Mm-hmm. And so, so I had to commute during, like, the busiest times of the day. Mm-hmm. So just imagine, like, spending 4 hours, 4 days a week
On the road.
In Orlando, I-4 traffic. And then also being a mom to two tiny ones who rely on you. Like when I was doing this commute, I was still pumping for my son.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like trying to get home as fast as possible because I had like a stash of milk that I had pumped during my work day that I needed to get home and get in the fridge. Plus, like I would be uncomfortable because I would be like waiting to feed him when I got home. These are all like the invisible parts about being a new mom trying to work. It's like this is not a unique experience at all. A lot of women go through this and people just don't really talk about it. I don't think so. So yeah, so by the time I got home, it would be like maybe 7 p.m. And both of my kids would probably already be in bed or they would be about to get in bed. And I would just be like, I am missing out on so much time with my family. I am spending hours a day in the car in traffic, which just anyone who's driven in Orlando, like that is such an anxiety inducing experience. Yeah, it's exhausting. Yeah, I was at my wit's end. And
especially the driving part. That sounds, oh my God. That would literally like drain me.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think that happened with a lot of people that we worked with. A lot of people, when we were mandated to return to the office, they literally had to decide, I need to step away or move, find an apartment closer to where we worked because they were spending, like we had people that we worked with who worked in, or who lived in Lakeland, who were commuting into.
And Lakeland's like, where's Lakeland?
Lakeland?
I know of it, but I can't remember where it was.
From where we are,
it's
about 30 to 45 minutes west, closer to Tampa.
Okay.
So it's even farther away from where we are. Yeah.
Wait, people that we work with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know someone lived in Haines City, and I was like, well, I know a couple people who lived in Haines City, and oh my God, I can't even imagine. I was lucky. I was lucky where I lived.
Yeah. So, so I think like these are all pieces that really contribute to like mental health in the workplace is like the experience that people are having before and after their jobs. Like it all ties in because you're not getting paid for your commute, right?
Yeah, no. And also, and like some people who work in other areas, it takes a while just to even get to like the clock in, and they don't. So it can take like a half an hour, and they're like not even driving, just like because the place is so big, you have to take like all this walking and getting on a bus, and you don't even get paid for that, which I think they should change that. I think that's absolutely ridiculous. It's like, okay, you're on property. You should, as soon as you hit property, as soon as you park your car and you go out, like you should be able to clock in then.
Well, I think that's what, I think that the future of the workforce needs to be some sort of a virtual, like a hybrid at the very least, where people are able to choose what works best for them.
Yeah.
Some people work best when they're around others. I remember you told me you liked to be like, you liked having the option to work from home or to be in the office because you thrived being around other people. And I think that everyone kind of goes through that where some days they work really well when they have other people to talk to and they feel like they could ask a question. Like if you're new to a job and you're trying to learn, it's helpful to have other people that you can like, hey, what does this mean? Or can you teach me this? Truthfully, I think it would save everybody so much time and money to just like be able to work from your home if you can.
And the environment too.
If you have, and the environment, not to mention. Yeah. So, there were so many factors like over the last 4 years with the world changing, how expensive everything has gotten.
It's making me poor.
The rise of like AI and
AI is destroying my job.
Yeah. Well, I was watching a TikTok yesterday about I think it was like a guy asking like, do you feel like over the last 4 years like super disconnected from your reality? Do you feel like you entered a alternate universe and like you're just kind of like watching yourself move around in your daily life from the outside?
Yeah, dissociation.
Yeah. And I was like, what is he about to say? And he just was talking about how a lot of those feelings are attributed to the fact that like we live in such a virtual world right now. Like we're kind of like on our phones always. We're sitting in front of computers. A lot of our work exists like a video game, right? It's like all online. The only way, and that's a huge contributor to like people feeling like mentally worn out and just and you also have access to the entire world's problems, right? Like, think about it. 20 years ago, you probably didn't really understand what was happening. I was on a global scale.
I was also like 8 years old. Jessica, why are you breaking my stuff?
Is it okay down there?
I guess it's still working.
Oh, sorry, I like yanked my head back. But yeah, like just thinking about not even just like our age, people who were like our age 20 years ago.
Okay.
Like they didn't necessarily have the same access that we do today to like what's happening on a global scale. So us understanding like all of just like the negativity and just, you know, problems, it's great to have a understanding and like exposure to that, because that's how I think we can make change. But it's also just mentally draining, and people carry that weight with them.
Yeah. You know? Another thing too, where I've noticed.
Sorry, I'm breaking everything.
Okay, so this is something I've noticed since I do social media, and I'm on like social media all the time, which is not the best thing for my mental health, but I got to pay the bills, and I did choose this for my life. So I feel like I can't even complain about it. Anyway, so sometimes I have to do engagement for a client, like go around, basically dive in there, engage with others. And like people start drama over the stupidest things. It's like constant, like literally this client that I had was just like about like food. And so I'll be going into like the world of like foodies and chefs and such. And one person was making like a vegan steak. So it was like cauliflower, the way they made it with all the seasonings, it looked like steak. So so the title when it was starting, was like a vegan steak, or I don't know, something like that. People in the comment were so pissed off that he called it a steak. Like they were going at him.
How much of that do you think is like bots?
No, it's
like trolling.
Well, I know there's definitely trolling, but I don't believe that there's like bots that are just going around, because it's very like particular, specific of what they're saying. So, but I do notice like I see a lot of hate comments just like on different niches and such. And what I've learned is that when I go to their profile, they either have no photo, a picture of like a random something, or a truck. It's always like a truck too. Yeah, it's always a truck. Like God, it's insane in that world, and I've noticed it's been happening more since the pandemic. I feel like people are getting way too comfortable of throwing hate online, and it's just getting worse and worse. And I know like Instagram does try its best. Instagram and TikTok do try their best to keep away the bullying, and they keep out words like that's obviously bullying, like slut, whore, bitch, whatever. But people get creative.
Yeah, they find ways to enter other characters into the word to make it not be flagged.
Yeah,
like inappropriate.
I want to tell you this, and it actually like pisses me off, and you can probably, and you're a mom, so I want to ask you this question, and I know you're going to answer the right way because you're a good person.
No pressure.
Yeah, so there's this person, she's a mother, and she doesn't like to feed her kids like processed foods. She's a stay-at-home mom, so she has the time. So she does have the time to like make more homemade. The video that went viral, and that's how I found her, was her making homemade goldfish. And I thought it was cool. I like watching these videos where you're like, oh, making bread or different ways of doing this to avoid the chemicals in the grocery store. So I find her videos like very inspiring. Like, oh, like maybe we can like, do this and look through the recipe, right? So let me ask you this question. When you watch this video as a mother who is a working mom, what is your reaction?
I typically take the stance that if they have the time and the resources to make something homemade for their kids, that takes a lot of love. That's my perspective. So if that's what they want to do, even if they're just doing it for likes on social media, that's their prerogative. And it's not my business. So like, I'll probably watch their video and give them a view because I'm curious to know what they're doing. Yeah. But I'm not going to spew hate for somebody because they have the time and resources to do something. I think a lot of other moms out there, just from my own perspective, like wish that they could do things like that for their family. Yeah. And just simply don't have the time or the resources. Like it's expensive. If you look at purchasing raw ingredients, there was a time, I would say probably when we were growing up in like the 90s, the early 2000s, there was a time that raw ingredients to actually make something from scratch was more cost effective than actually purchasing like a pre-made item. Like I think like birthday cakes, for example. Today, that's not true. Raw ingredients are much more expensive in most box stores where you're buying like flour and sugar or salt. Like you're going to spend more buying the raw ingredients than you would if you just bought like a box mix or bought them pre-made, prepackaged. Thank you, economy. Thank you, inflation. So anyways, I always speak from a place of understanding and just like, it's not my business. Like if they ultimately, like anyone who's getting hate on their video, they're still getting attention. And so they're going to make their money because you're just giving them more attention.
Yeah, no, she is. And you actually responded like, of course, I knew you were going to respond the right way. But yeah, no, there was a lot of comments of people calling her privileged or people saying, oh, it must be nice to have a rich husband or it's like basically talking to her like if she's doing harm on the internet, being like, this is not right. Like you're shaming moms. And
it's because they're taking it personally.
Exactly.
And it's probably a very sensitive subject for them. They wish they could do those things. I mean, I watch videos like that all the time of like, a big one that gets me feeling kind of like down on myself are people doing like, okay, so back to school season's coming up, right? Like I know it's only June, but
it is.
It is.
Especially
coming.
In Florida.
Yeah. And so my kids aren't even in school yet. And I will watch TikToks of like people doing back to school preparations with their kids or like making crafts for teachers or like taking really cute back to school pictures. And I start to feel like, oh, wow, I really should put together a gift for my kids, like daycare teachers, or I should make this like themed pizza night for my kids. And I've done it a couple times. My kids aren't old enough to remember it, but I've done little things here and there. And it takes so much time and like energy and effort to sit down and like plan those types of things out. And I just don't have the time for it.
Yeah.
And I've kind of learned that my kids like even simple things. Like we pitch a tent in our living room and watch movies and they think that's the best thing ever.
I mean, I would love to do that.
I like to do that as an adult. Yeah. So I just think like, but I wish I could do those things.
Yeah.
You know, when I watch other moms doing like crafty, thoughtful, you know, experiences with their kids or with their families. I'm like,
maybe like once in a while, but not like her how she can do it like literally every day.
Yeah. I think people, I think people can be jealous and they speak from
it's complete like envy. And you know what's crazy is that people who comment back like defending being like you're just envy, like you're just jealous and this and then they're like no. And I'm like that is literally what you're doing because you're projecting. Like why are you taking the time to comment on this? Another thing too, it's like with the way the algorithm works, if you're seeing that video, you in the back of the head you want to be able to know how to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes back to the golden rule, too. I mean, my parents taught me from a very young age, if you don't have, like, treat others how you want to be treated. And, like, the whole, like, don't say something if it's not going to be nice.
Right.
Like, if you can't say something nice, don't say something at all. Don't say anything at all. I said that wrong, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that, like, people are keyboard warriors and they get on our keyboard where you can't see their face and you can't hold them accountable for what they're saying. And they'll just say whatever they feel like saying in the moment because there's no repercussion for them.
Yeah.
And that's a big issue. I think that happens too, like when you're working virtually. I think that's why a lot of these companies are trying to like hold on to the office environment because it's easier to hold people accountable if you're seeing them in person.
True. I think that's why. Yeah.
It's easier to control people.
Yeah, and that company was pretty controlling.
Absolutely.
They're like authoritative in a way.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Social media. It's wild.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, thank you for having me. I feel like we only scratched the surface. I want to hear more about like, we'll have to do like a part 2 because I want to hear more about like you and like your perspective.
I wish I had 3 mics so we can bring in another employee and we just, actually I do have a mic.
Yeah, you should bring in.
Oh shoot! I actually do have another mic. I mean, I don't know how this thing works, so I have to look into that. Or you can just, I don't know, whatever. But yeah, no, I would love if we just like all get into like a circle and like let's talk about our trauma and the workforce.
I've thought about making like a TikTok series. I have TikTok, but I don't use it to produce. I only consume.
Yeah, no, I know. I always get suggested to follow you all the time.
Really?
Yeah.
It's funny because I literally have made one TikTok and it was when I left the company that we used
to work
for. Yeah.
I don't think I saw it, but I mean, you're just being suggested to me because of phone numbers.
Yeah.
I think that's why.
I've considered making a TikTok series to like kind of talk about the experiences that I had at the company that we used to work for.
Yeah.
Because so many people still hold it on a pedestal. But I do have fear. My husband still works for that company.
Yeah.
And so I don't want any repercussions to come back to him.
Yeah.
And then I hate the idea of burning a bridge too, because it wasn't all bad. You know, I did have some really amazing experiences and met some great people, but at the end it was real bad. I mean, I was in a very dark place when I left. I just think there were some very unrealistic expectations on you when you worked for that company. And at the end of the day, we're all just human. We're all just trying to live. We're all just trying to make
life.
It.
Just trying to live this little life that we have.
That's right.
But thank you for coming over and chatting with me today.
Yeah, anytime. I got my my Trenta star. I had stars to redeem today, so they're like, "Do you want the biggest size for free?"
Yes. Ooh, hello. Absolutely.